Hello, everybody. Welcome to Business Dean's panel. We will start in about 10 seconds. We are just waiting for the live show to start. Welcome again. My name is Professor Cihan Cobanoglu. I'm the McKibben Endowed Chair Professor at the University of South Florida. I also serve as the Director of M3 Center, which you see on my behind. Today, we have a very interesting and amazing panel. We wanted to bring the amazing four deans here, business college deans, and we wanted to talk to them about the COVID-19 and the business education. If you are here and if you can hear us, thank you. I already see some comments that people are hearing us nice and clearly. I appreciate it. If for those of you who are joining us, I already see a lot of people tuned in. I would like to ask you, please write your questions in the comment section where you are seeing it for our deans, and I will ask your questions to them as the time comes. So without further ado, I would like to invite our deans to our panel. First, I would like to invite Dean Dana Rapaccioli. Welcome, Dean Rapaccioli.
Thank you. Welcome.
Dean Dana Rapaccioli is the Dean of Gabelli School of Business at the Fordham University. And I would like to invite next as Dean John Kraft. Dean Kraft, welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Dean Kraft is the Dean of Warrington College of Business at the University of Florida. I would like to invite next as the Dean Moez Limayem. Dean Limayem, welcome.
Thank you, Cihan. Thank you for having me.
Dean Moez Limayem is the Dean of MOOC College of Business at the University of South Florida, which I have the pleasure of joining in about a month's time. Next July 1st, School of Hospitality and Tourism Management will be part of MOOC College of Business. And then last but not least, I would like to invite Dean Charles Whiteman. Dr. Dean Whiteman, welcome.
Thank you very much.
And Dean Charles Whiteman is the Dean of Smale College of Business at the Penn State University. Thank you again for being here. I appreciate you taking the time. I know how busy you are. I served as a dean before, very tiny beating college. And from even that experience, I can imagine how busy you are. And of course, you are the dean of some of the best universities in the world here, the College of Businesses. As you all know, our topic I would like to bring for our listeners, that our topic is the COVID-19 and business education. So we are going to discuss this one. And I would like to start with my first question. And Dean Rapaccioli, I will go with you, and Dean Kraft, Dean Limayem, and then Dean Whiteman. I will go in this order, and later we can talk about that. The first question is this: given the sudden transfer to remote instruction in the middle of the spring semester, I assume that all of us have done the same thing. How did your college cope with this? Were your faculty ready? Were the students satisfied with this change and the outcome? Any major problems or happiness, great moments? Dean Rapaccioli, how about start with you, please?
Sure. So, we have been thinking about the challenges that COVID-19 would present early on in January. We have a number of international students that attend our graduate programs. And we had been thinking, since early January about what would happen if we would face this challenge. So, in March, like many schools, we decided right around spring break time to go to remote education. And, all in all, it was extraordinarily seamless. The faculty stepped into it and they made the best of it. Most of our faculty used Zoom. Some used, webcast, and some used Blackboard Collaborate. But the primary approach was really to do remote learning rather than what I would consider online learning. So most of our faculty had their class at the same time. And, the students were sympathetic and appreciative that the faculty did the best that they could to ensure that the learning goals were achieved. What we're thinking about now is, we need to really be more innovative and really develop courses that are more online and have both asynchronous and synchronous content, and really change our syllabi to adapt for that. So were the students satisfied? I think so. I was looking at the feedback, and by and large, they really were satisfied. I also think that, their expectations were low because we all went into this, so suddenly. And as we look to the future, if this is going to continue, we really have to really innovate more. And right now, our faculty are rolling up their sleeves and really redesigning, many of their courses. So I'll stop there and I'll let my colleagues add.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dean Kraft, how about at University of Florida?
Well, at Florida, we have already a significant number of classes that were online, both at the master's level and at the undergraduate level. We have online master's and online undergraduate programs. So most of our faculty, I would say about 85% of our faculty have been involved with some form of online teaching, either a full class or a part of the class. And maybe even all of their classes might be online, depending on what they teach. Because of that, and because we have our own teaching and design center, when we switched to online, unlike Donna's situation where you kind of took off at spring break and went to it, we actually came back from spring break for 10 days and then switched because our spring break was so early. Would have been nice to do it the other way around, but essentially that allowed us to have the signal that we were going to have to make this change. So our Teaching and Learning Center really sprang into action to help the people who had not done this in the past. And we used many of the same things. People who were just switching from face-to-face to online use Zoom. But we do have some studios that they could go in and use some form of synchronous lecture capture. But what we're planning for this year in the summer is to try and get all those people up to speed with what we would call real online learning that has a lot more in it than just a webcam telecast and a lecture and some other things. And then, of course, we've got to add all the other co-curricular activities, clubs, meetings, and things in for students that they do. And probably that's not really much different than any school is planning for in the fall, since we're still uncertain about what's going to happen.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dean Limayem, how about at University of South Florida?
Yeah, not very different from my colleagues who just spoke. I think COVID-19 took us a little bit by surprise, like everywhere in the world, and very quickly, right after spring break, we only had 2 days to move to remote instruction. I would say that given the circumstances, the faculty really stepped up and did an amazing job in converting very quickly to more of a synchronous remote learning than really online learning. I think the students also adapted relatively quickly. Of course, typical challenges where maybe a lot of our students are first-generation students. 42%, 43 are I'm hearing an echo here, so I don't know if it is from me or not. 42, 43% are Pell Grant recipient. So I think finding the right equipment for some, so we have to very quickly make sure that we provide students with the necessary equipment if they did not have equipment, and we were able to lend them some. I would say we also created some groups of what I call online superheroes in the college to help faculty. And overall, we're very pleased and everything went well. For the summer, we moved to online learning that meets the Quality Matters guidelines. And for the fall, we're preparing more for a flexible hybrid type of learning.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks also for the echo there. I think everybody muted their microphones. So Dean Whiteman, how about at Penn State? Was it painful for you to switch to remote instruction?
I don't know that I would want to say painful. It was certainly sudden. Fortunately, we had thought in the days and weeks leading up to when the call was made that we might need to lay in some additional equipment for people to be able to accommodate this kind of instruction. And so we bought a few dozen webcams. We garnered all the laptops we could pull together. And as nearly as I can tell, we fulfilled all of the requests for special technology by students and by faculty during this time. The call was made in the middle of our spring break to go remote for the following Monday. And that following Monday, there were 65,000 Penn Staters in Zoom sessions at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was really quite a remarkable switch on a dime. And like at Florida, we have a lot of online programs at the master's level in particular. And so we had a lot of faculty who were experienced with online learning, and many of them stepped up and helped their colleagues who were a little bit at a loss as to how to do this quickly. We also have our own dedicated instructional design unit, and they did a wonderful job helping people transition. Now for the summer, we made the decision that we would go online for everything. So making the distinction between remote and online, as my colleagues have, that was a heavy lift. We had about a month's notice to do that, but we did it. And we've now got enough confidence to say that we're going to go the rest of the way and do it for the fall as well. There are kind of two pieces to this. One of them is considerable hand-holding for the large, complicated classes like the big lectures and so on. The instructional designers will get in there and help very clearly on those. And for the rest of our faculty, we're going to teach them how to fish, basically. We've got a lot of material to help faculty do their own conversion to online with some assistance from the instructional designers. So we're preparing for an online fall. As with many other institutions, Penn State hasn't made the call yet and won't for another 2 weeks about what the fall is going to look like.
Wonderful, thank you. As I have told you that we have live audience right now listening to us, and I would like to entertain as many questions as possible from them. So because it's related to this first question that I asked with switching to remote instruction, I would like to bring Dori Davari's question to you. And then this one is open to anybody. Online courses degrees were already available, as you already have said, in your colleges available, but many students preferred, or at least some students preferred, in-person classes. Do you have any specific encouraging strategies in online classes that were not previously incorporated? Who would like to take a shot at this question? Please unmute yourself. Yes, please.
I'm not sure if they weren't incorporated, because I do think in some of the fully online programs that we have, this was being used. But the use of breakout rooms really proved effective. You know, a big part of, a Fordham education is getting to know the students and having the students know each other, and using breakout rooms as a way to really tee up conversations that could then be had in a broader way really did work well, and the students enjoyed that. And it gave voice to students who might not necessarily have had voice when they were in, that 35 seat classroom, by putting them in, groups of 5. So that was one thing that worked well for us, is the breakout rooms.
Wonderful, thank you. That's very helpful. Dean Whiteman?
Yeah, I wanted to mention one kind of aspect of Zoom communication that turned out to be a real plus. And that's the private chat. Students can privately chat to their professors. And it dovetails nicely with an experience I had teaching my own online class. A few years ago, I was teaching the same class in 2 formats, one face-to-face and one online. At the same time, with the same digital material, same homework assignments, same exams, everything. And the online students actually tracked quicker than the face-to-face students. And in thinking back on this, I thought, well, maybe the reason for this is that the face-to-face students were reluctant to ask, what kind of question, whereas the students privately chatting to me had no problem with it. And oh, by the way, after the first night's class, the students started going out of their way to publicly ask questions in the chat. On the third session, they started answering each other's questions, not always correctly, and so that was a learning experience. And by the 4th session, they were tracking much better than the face-to-face students who wouldn't ask those tough questions.
Wonderful, thank you. Anybody else want to? Dean Limayem? If you
just one thing. I think one thing when students, I've taught online for a number of years, and one thing I've learned, and then comparing to what people are doing now, is when you're in the online format, you're not confined to 3 days a week, 60 minutes or 90 minutes. The students tend to think about these things at different times. Now, I wouldn't advise this for all faculty members, but a student, I say, when you have a question, email me. There are Zoom office hours and things like that, but email me and I'll try and answer it right away. And that means it gets students thinking about this on a schedule that fits their schedule, not as opposed to some rigid, you show up in class and ask questions, or you have office hours and they come by. And then you can make appointments with people, and they find no hesitation about making appointments under this format. And the same goes with things out of the classroom, no matter what it is. If it's virtual, like the breakout rooms, the students can essentially schedule it at any time they want, as opposed to being locked in with a schedule. Again, that is good and bad associated with it, but it's a quicker way for them to learn.
Great. Thank you. Dean Limayem, I'm going to say, yeah.
In addition to all the wonderful features that my colleagues just mentioned, we started a new campaign that every question or query should be answered within 24 hours, not including weekends. And that really helped set the expectations, but also the obligation from our faculty and staff. And I think it has alleviated a lot of concerns, because sometimes, you ask questions and you don't get a quick answer. So that helped us a lot.
Great, thank you. And Dean Rapaccioli, you mentioned the Zoom breakout rooms, right? So yesterday, because of one of your faculty, Cihan Cobanoglu, with his lead, that I'm going to be a moderator in Value Creation Conference tomorrow. And I will be using that Zoom breakouts for the first time for a wicked problem that I came up with. So we'll see how that's going to go. But I will also see that from the first experience. And because it's related to this topic that we're talking about, Zoom, some of you said that you're using Zoom. One question came about the security of this Zoom. Of course, from my USF experience, we were instructed not to use Zoom at all. We switched to Teams. But I just want to bring this question. Do any of you have concerns about security, privacy with platforms like Zoom or other things like Teams or Google Meet? And then the question continues, and how you are addressing these concerns. Anybody want to take on that one?
I will take this this question, because unfortunately we were a victim of Zoom bombing, and this happened when we were organizing an orientation session for our freshmen for the fall and their parents. But unfortunately, somebody hacked the system, hacked some credential. And it was just horrible, very unfortunate. And that person started showing very inappropriate and disturbing videos. It was just a nightmare. So from that point in time, we decided to stop using Zoom. I have nothing against Zoom, and I think it's a great product. But for us, at least, we had a very bad experience. So now we only use Microsoft Teams.
Great.
Yes. What we did we continue to use Zoom, but we added extra security precautions. So for my class, I had to send them a special link. And then once everyone was in the Zoom room, you close it so that no one else can get in. Now, it's kind of a pain, because if somebody's internet falls out, then they can't get back in. But, once we added those security measures, to my knowledge, we didn't have any more challenges.
I see. Yep. Thank you.
Similarly here, about a month in, I think the university reset all the default settings on our Zoom platform to make them far more secure. And the Zoom bombing episodes that we had experienced previously did not repeat.
Right. Okay, thank you. And I would like to just again bring another quick question, because it's related to all these academic issues with switching to remote instruction. William Bottom is asking, what steps are you taking to ensure that academic integrity is maintained in exam and assignments? all of you are being involved with online education even before, but was there anything that you did constantly to increase or maybe control the integrity of assignments and exams, particularly exams? Anybody, please.
I can quickly say again, we really had to improvise when when we moved to remote instruction, but we have some principles that we always remind everyone of. Of course, the health and well-being for faculty, staff, and students. But the second principle is really important, which is the principle of the integrity of our program. So we used Proctorio. We trained faculty very quickly. We used Proctorio for exams, and that seems to have worked very well, even though sometimes it flags. So it makes more of the type 2 error where it flags some suspicion while there are no suspicions. So we were able to manage, and we put again a group of faculty who are very familiar with Proctorio to help interpret the recommendations and the suspicious cases. But now for this summer and the fall, we follow the quality matters, so that hopefully will take care also of the concerns regarding integrity. Thank you.
Anybody else want to take? Yes, Kraft.
We've been in the business for a long time, so we've used ProctorU, we've used HonorLock. We have all kinds of mechanisms that track this stuff and looking for students that essentially may be violating our honor code. In addition to that, we test people in a lot of other different ways in terms of timing of opening exams and things like that. Now in my classes, I have the exams as open book and open notes, and they only have 90 minutes. And believe me, you have to know the material to get through, because I can change this very quickly to make it very difficult. So I would say, and I've taught the class both live and online, and the online students perform the same. It really doesn't make any difference. And then with things like simulations and a lot of other things there, I've never really had any concern about the integrity issue. I think, at least in my course, they're doing it. Now in a large class, there are issues, but we've been doing 2,000 person classes since 1990, and I think pretty good at checking this out. I think if you're just starting out, there is a learning curve there that you have to get on, and there's a lot of different technology and other things you can do, a way you can structure these assignments to make sure that people are doing their own work. Having said that, there's probably no different than what happened in a live class. There's always someone that's looking to try and get an edge.
As well, yes. Anybody else want to add before I go into my, yes, Dean Whiteman.
Yeah, very similar situation here. We did some work with some people with Examity, and that raised kind of an interesting issue, because when we started it, they were having human beings do the proctoring. And then when India shut down, they had to convert within about a week to exclusively AI-based proctoring. So we allowed some people to use Examity. We did, where we could, we asked people to change the nature of their assessments to be much more like what John was talking about. And I know exactly that idea because I use it myself in my own class. But it will be a challenge for this fall, because we've got far more people that are going to need to be doing assessments.
Right, exactly. I would like to just ask you another question that one of our viewers, by the way, it's wonderful. The questions are really floating, which is great. I have my own questions, but I would like to take this and combine it with my question. So some of you already said that the universities made plans. For example, University of South Florida, announced the plans to open the campus in fall semester, not summer, but so there will be a lot of changes. So I hope that COVID-19 will be a thing of the past when we come to August, September. But if not, then if the online instruction continues, a lot of people are asking this question. I would like to ask you this question because let me just bring the question first. Some students perceive online learning to be different from that of face-to-face, and hence they believe they ought to pay lower tuition. Have you faced such perception, and what would you advise? For example, if a student is going to do it online, what difference will it make if they are taking the class from Fordham versus University of Florida or Penn State or University of South Florida? Anybody? Dean Whiteman, I think you unmute your microphones, or you want to maybe start?
Sure. I'm sure all four of us take great pride in the faculty that we have, and we'll put them up against anybody else's faculty. But you know what? It's not just the content. It's the interaction with the faculty member. And I think that's what's important, and that's what distinguishes our programs. We have a lot of programs, particularly at the master's level, that are online and cost the same or more than resident programs, because in some cases there's a lot more work that goes into doing something that can be learned asynchronously as opposed to just showing up for your Tuesday, Thursday class. So there's, I think, a lot of good things about online education. And I was just interviewed over the weekend by CBS News, actually, and the reporter said, it sounds like you might actually think that online is better. And I said, well, no, it's different. In some ways, it's better. In some ways, I like in-person instruction better. But that's just it. They're different. There's not a ranking here, I don't think.
Great, thank you. Dean Rapaccioli, yes, please.
Yeah, I would agree completely with what my colleague just said. And I think it's important for each school to differentiate itself and to make sure that it's delivering on its mission. So, you know, what is important to Fordham is a holistic education, and we focus on this notion of cura personalis, care for the whole person. That's going to happen whether we're online or whether we're face-to-face, and the quality of the education and the learning goals are all going to be achieved. So as he said, it's different. It's not better. It's not worse. It's different. And we're excited about a lot of the innovations that have bubbled up that, you know, we're going to continue to do from this, situation.
Absolutely. Dean Limayem, yes.
Yes, I would like to, I agree with that, with my colleagues about the merit of online education, if it is done correctly, of course. But I would like to tackle the second part of the question regarding the cost. It is true that the average person might think that I'm not consuming the utilities, I'm not in the classroom, so I should pay less. But that what probably the average person does not understand, that converting and offering quality online education actually costs money. So we did a lot of educations for parents and students regarding that. And in Florida, John knows, we have the state allows us to charge distance learning fees to pay for these expenditure. But what we decided to do is to reduce other fees, especially mainly the fees that where students do not benefit from the services, like facility fees, transportation fees. Students are not benefiting on campus of these fees, so that at least when we add the distance learning fees, overall, students don't have an additional burden to pay for these online courses.
Wonderful, thank you. I always answer this question when people ask me. I tell them that from Florida, we are going to New York. Online teaching is using I-75 to go north, and face-to-face is I-95. And a hybrid could be I-85, so at the end, you reach the same destination. That's the goals, the teaching goals that we all have. I would like to bring another question, which is kind of like similar to what I wanted to ask you. And in my opinion, this is an excellent question. Given the competition from MOOCs, massive online open courses, and fully online universities, what do you think are the short and long-term implications on faculty and administrative staff? And I know that, for example, Dean Limayem, you, MOMA College of Business, just offered a free certificate post-COVID, right? So things like that. And MOOCs are, I don't know if any of your universities are offering MOOC courses, but they are usually free. They are more geared towards getting a skill as opposed to a diploma or a degree from a university. What is your thoughts about that? Anybody, please?
Okay, I'll take that one. I think you have to look at what a university does, and whether we're online or live, we're delivering some kind of brand that's associated with us, and we have certain metrics we're measuring the students' performance against. And we don't have any MOOCs at our campus, and I think even if this lasts for a long time, there is always going to be some combination of online learning, face-to-face learning, and then people on campus that are going to be filling different needs. And the thing is, when we go back to face-to-face with some of our programs in the fall, if that happens, we still have to offer the online component because some students may prefer not to come back for various reasons. So I think that's going to change the nature of the delivery. And I like to remind everybody, it goes back to what Donna and several of us said at the beginning. What we're doing is online learning. When we switched dramatically for 3 weeks, for the classes that happened to, that was remote and there was a catch-up involved. But all of us had been involved in some form of online learning. We're just bringing everybody else up to that same level of quality. And as Chuck said, it's not just what happens in the classroom, it's all those other things that we have to replicate in a virtual format, whether it's incubators, business plan competitions, student clubs, breakout rooms. That's what we're doing, and that's what we're trained to do, and we're talented in doing. You're not going to get that in a MOOC, because a MOOC is not designed to meet the needs of an individual. It's designed to produce a certain skill, and that's all it does.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. Dean Rapaccioli, please.
Yeah, I can build on that a little bit. Again, part of what a university is about is educating, right, as opposed to training. And education is very relational, and the students help each other learn. They learn from the faculty. So I think, that is a big, advantage, as John mentioned, to what a university does as opposed to what a MOOC does. So again, it's this whole process of educating the whole person and educating each other. So I think one of the things that the faculty are realizing, and many realized already, is how their role is shifting over time to becoming more of a curator of knowledge, and really pulling together different pieces and thinking about the ways that different people learn and putting those all together. So in the long run, I am very optimistic about a lot of the things that we're all implementing now.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Dean Limayem, yes, please.
Yes, I really believe, and this is a little bit probably what this question is alluding to, is that what COVID-19 is showing us, that probably post-COVID-19, and we're starting to see this, they will be, and this is true for businesses, but it's true for universities, winners and losers. I think the losers, unfortunately, I believe their numbers will be higher, will be the ones who will treat online educations and the new norm as the old norm, or similar to the old norm. And they are duplicating MOOCs without paying a great deal of attention to the needs of the students and to the 360-degree education of the students, and also offering the flexibility and the customizations that the students deserve. The winners, on the other hand, are the university who understand how to adapt, who understand the competition and distinguish themselves. And I think I agree with Donna, is there is much more to education that what happens in the classroom. Remember the co-curricular activities, all the other career preparations, and working on the soft skills, networking with the business community in our case is very important.
Wonderful. Thank you. Dean Whiteman, yes, please.
Yeah, I would say, the people that should be concerned about this are the institutions that are engaging in content delivery. If that's all you're doing, you would have been put out of business by the book or by videotape. But if you're doing honest to goodness, interactive, engaged learning, I don't think you have anything to fear. So 20 years ago, when we started putting lectures online, some of my colleagues were really worried about being put out of work by that. And I said, no, you're not going to be put out of work by that. You're going to be better at what you do because you don't have to spend class time delivering content, and you can actually interact with the material and the students. So I'm not really too concerned about whether this is going to put us out of business.
But I agree with you. Thank you so much for those answers. But there is, I believe at least, there is a place for MOOCs. Like you said, for some people that might be very useful, and that may even result them to go and get a degree. My next question to you is somewhat related to this. As an educator myself, that I have seen around the world, different universities, China, US, and other parts, that there is something new thing called mini masters or mini bachelor degrees, so that the universities are offered by using MOOC, but in the form of some kind of an online class, or sometimes can be synchronous. It doesn't have to be asynchronous. So that allow students to gain a certain skills or competency. I would like to ask you, what are your thoughts about that? When I'm asking this question, I would like you to please reflect on the future of business education. Are we going to continue degrees, minors, as we have done for the last, I don't know how many years, in the next 50 years? What are your thoughts are we going to see any changes in those, how we deliver those competencies and skills? Anybody?
Well, I think if you think long term and think globally of business, it's not like the US or any one country has a monopoly on doing it right. And one thing I think universities are very good at is not trying to produce the standard widget. They figure out ways that they can do things differently to segment the market and to meet different needs of people. And I don't think the degrees are going to disappear. I think they're going to have a different form. So people find ways to take executive education courses and bundle them into the degrees. You can take certificates and stack them into degrees. And all you're doing is really producing the same outcome in the end. You're providing different ways to get there and through a lot of different formats of learning. And that's the one thing that this crisis has done. It's got schools to come up with creative ways to deliver their product and reach their mission. And so whether it's mini masters or stackable degrees or whatever it is, somebody will find a way to essentially satisfy the needs of a particular group, maintaining the quality that they want for their institution, and maximizing along with what the values of the institution are. I mean, higher education is great at doing this. You know, you used to say this concept, if you want to take a risk, don't look at higher education because everything happens very slowly. That's true. But we do try a lot of different things. Some work and some don't work. And I think the future of higher education is to try and figure out how you can essentially credential people and create knowledge. And that's what we do really well. I mean, whereas if you have a corporate model, you're producing a standard product, you're always trying to recover your investment. Universities, we basically move on to new areas very quickly, and we don't come up with everybody has to do it the same.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to take on this question?
Yeah, just very quickly to follow up on what John said, I think what is really important is that as colleges of business anywhere in the world, we should not design programs in a vacuum. I think that's again what will separate the winners from the losers. We have major stakeholders, right? The employers of our students, the business communities we deal with, but also the students themselves. So it's really important to stay extremely attentive to these needs and to the evolving in business of business and how business is done anywhere. I have to however, cautious a little bit from these, what I call discounted degrees, you know, mini MBAs instead of, you know, you do few courses here and there and all of a sudden this is called mini MBAs. And before you know it, the mini will disappear. And the only thing that will stay when people mention their degrees is the MBA or the master's degree. So I'm really have to caution us from, because that is a bad reflection if we engage in similar things. I think, again, the quality rigor are really important, but more importantly, listening to our stakeholders and being at the cutting edge of what is going on business-wise so that we can prepare our students the right possible way.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'll also add that, a big part of what an education does is build curiosity and, create lifelong learners. And I think a lot, skills are important, but they're changing. And, we have a responsibility to build this thoughtful set of mindsets within an individual so that they can, throughout their life, accumulate other skills. So I think there will always be a degree that will appeal to a certain group of people. And then there'll be others that may just want to accumulate skills either as a top off or standalone.
Wonderful. Thank you. Yes, Dean Whiteman.
I was just going to add to what John Kraft said about innovation in this space. In the last 5 years, Penn State SMEAL, we've created 21 new programs at the master's level. About half of those are certificate programs, and the majority of them are online programs. So those are basically your mini masters, the certificate programs, 12 credits. But it's a ticket to a full-blown master's. Or now what some of our students are doing is they're taking 2 or 3 certificates and putting them together. And before long, we're going to have another master's degree that's composed of certificates. So we're heavily engaged in this experiment, and it seems to be playing very well in the marketplace. Another thing that it's allowed us to do is expand dramatically the number of concentrations we have in our online MBA program. So each certificate basically is a concentration. And at last count, we have 22 concentrations in our online MBA program. You can't do that unless you're having multiple pathways into those courses. You can't support that many concentrations just from an online MBA program. It's got to be other stuff too.
Wonderful. Thank you. My next question, before I ask my next question to you, I would like to show you a couple of slides. I teach sometimes, or I make a presentation about the use of robots in hospitality and tourism industry. Please look at the titles. This is from hcareers.com, hospitalitycareers.com. So if you were to go there, type hospitality jobs and look at the companies on the right, Proper Hospitality, Provenance, Hilton, and look at the titles of them. Corporate Director of Social Media Producer, E-commerce Innovation Manager, Digital Web Production Analyst, Senior Analyst, and the list continues. Event Technology Manager, and these are all hospitality jobs. So 10 years ago, if you look at H Careers, none of these jobs were available. Now, my question to you is, we know that there will be different jobs in the future that doesn't exist right now. What your college are doing to produce graduates for the jobs that doesn't exist? Anybody, please.
Yeah, I'm happy to start on that one. We have been doing a kind of a self-assessment of the college and what we do well and what we want to push in the future. And the first thing is to produce people who have learned how to learn, not skills or particular programs or anything like that, but learn how to learn while you're here. And then we will help you throughout your career be a lifelong learner, and we'll stand ready to help you acquire whatever skills, whatever knowledge you need to be able to adapt to change. But I think that's the key, is produce people who already know how to learn and can do it when needed.
Wonderful. Anybody else want to take it?
Yeah, I think we were also, in addition to what Chuck said, we're also focused on developing resiliency and adaptability, because they are going to have many different roles throughout their career, and they have to learn how to be willing to learn new things. So the lifelong learner, the resiliency, the adaptability, those are all mindsets that we want to instill in all of our graduates.
I will add to these two excellent points. I think great relationship with employers and the business communities. Always be attentive to what they are saying and what they are observing from our graduates. I think this always has helped us update our curriculum, making sure that our curriculum is up to date. Also, just an emphasis of on lifelong. People call them soft skills. I don't like that name because I don't think they're soft, but more career skills that could serve them their entire career and their entire lives.
Wonderful, thank you. Dean Kraft, you want to add anything to that question?
Get the mic off. One thing is that we like to think that, or what we say is that we teach people to make decisions. Now, they may major in something, but the key thing is we're teaching them to make decisions, and they're making decisions in projects that they're involved with. They're making decisions with their teams. They're making decisions about what their careers they want to do. They're making decisions about whether they want to get a job, go to graduate school, get an MBA. And we look at this as a journey map that they're going to follow throughout their career. And we're trying to get them to make decisions that best influence their performance long term and their life plan, whatever it is. So I think it's less about majors and more about teaching people to make decisions and giving them the skill set so they can make the correct set of decisions. Whether that involves getting into analytics later on or any of these other things, those are just support courses or areas that help them make better decisions. And that's what we do. And you don't really get that in a classroom. You get that with all the totality of things you do by going to a university and participating in a wide range of activities. And some people are way better at making decisions and operating with ambiguity than other people are. And those are the ones that'll do very well.
Thank you. That's great. My next question is about the majors. When you look at any college of business, might be different in yours, but my question is about that. You see finance major, marketing major, accounting major, management is different. So today we know that, and COVID-19 was a great kind of like example of how the problems of complex world is solved by interdisciplinary approach. My question to you that, do you see your colleges are having those distinct majors as separate, or do you have anything in your colleges that kind of like incorporate interdisciplinary areas and create a different major, maybe a piece of all, to create these graduates that will solve the problems of the complex world?
I'll say a few words here. We have majors, the traditional finance, marketing, management, accounting. And then we have a bunch of specialties you can bundle together with. These are odd areas like wealth management, sales, entrepreneurship, retailing, insurance, risk management. They can take those as specialty areas, and they can take 2 of those if they want to, maybe 3. But in the end, everything is built around this core that includes, the normal introductory courses and statistics, but analytics, artificial intelligence. And then the idea is these people then can later on smoothly move into a master's program if they wish, or they can take a combined undergraduate master's to get a different skill set. So that's where we teach data science and business analytics. Business analytics for those people that are interested more using the functional areas, data sciences for those that want to move into other areas. And in the university, our students can take things all across the university, and there is a data science major that they could participate in also. But I think the key thing is teaching people to make the decisions that best inform them for their career and their life path. And you want to have these support things in there. So we teach them analytics as part of our core to give them a flavor of what that's going to be about. Because I think if this crisis informed anybody about anything, it's the ability to actually analyze complex problems with a lot of data and make decisions in a functional area. It's not just the programming and managing the data, it's trying to use this to make decisions.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will add that we realize that the life biggest challenges and the world biggest challenges cannot be solved by a single discipline within business or outside business. For example, you take cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a very complex and more than ever before, very timely and very relevant. So we created at the University of South Florida a master's degree that is completely interdisciplinary, where students take courses and from faculty, from psychology, from computer science, from health, from business, and many others. Also, we just created this year and have approved interdisciplinary data science degree hosted at the MOOC College of Business that also involve the College of Art and Science, the College of Engineering, the College of Health, and several others, because we believe that these complex problems require the collaboration of different disciplines. And the same thing within business. So we're working on fintech, for example. Fintech requires data science, requires finance, and several others. So I think that's the way to go for the future.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
I'll add two things. One is we take an interdisciplinary approach to the disciplines. So we ensure that all the students can look at a company's challenge from a variety of perspectives. So by getting them to understand what are the accounting implications when you make a marketing decision, what are the technology implications, and how will all of these things interact. And that, happens with a real live company and a real live case that all the students have to really address. But we also layer that on with opportunities to do interdisciplinary concentrations like social innovation or sustainability, where it really is truly interdisciplinary and the students are put in teams and they have to solve real world problems using their business skills as well as, their arts and sciences students sometimes in there as well. So I think interdisciplinary is really important and we have to get the students to really engage in that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I think what's important is that students learn how to work in interdisciplinary teams. I think there's real strength in the disciplines. I'm a discipline guy. I'm an economist by training. The introduction to Paul Samuelson's famous introductory textbook, he said, economics is the queen of the social sciences. And economists think they know how to solve all known problems. That's not true. But if you get an economist in your team and you've got other disciplines in that team and that can work together well, I think that's great. And we put a lot of effort into giving our students experiences working in interdisciplinary teams that are made interdisciplinary by design. So I think that's how you really get the interdisciplinary strength, is disciplinary experts working together with multiple disciplines represented.
And this goes through the teamwork, right? Integrating teamwork, how to work with other people, using tools like Zoom and everything else that we have said before. I think that's also very valuable. I would like to bring a question from one of our audience, and I would like to thank them. There's a lot of questions, but let me ask this question. Sedan Doğan asked, thank you for this valuable session. I would like to ask if the robots will be part of education process. Is it possible to see the robots as an educator in business colleges? She said in higher education, but artificial intelligence and robots, we see a lot of these movements, right? A lot of people are using them for educational purposes. In China, we have seen some examples in America as well. What are your thoughts? Do you think that we will be able to, maybe in the context of transferring the knowledge, are we going to be able to eliminate the professors in person and then automate this with the artificial intelligence enabled robots? What is your thoughts about that? I know it's very futuristic, but I want to hear what you feel.
Unlike Chuck, I think mathematics is a source of all wisdom, not economists. But I would say it's less about robots.
Same difference.
Yeah, right. Well, it is, yes, since I'm both. But I think it's not about robots, it's about artificial intelligence and the power it has in the hands of very talented individuals. I mean, you got to remember, the machine learning, it learns, there's some of that there, but it's how people interpret it will always be the skill set. Now, down the road, yes, that could be, but I'd say in the immediate future, it's how people are smart enough to use artificial intelligence from anything like just a simple example, if you think of this, the student answers a question. Well, if you had that replicated, that you had 10,000 similar questions, artificial intelligence could formulate a series of answers, give the student information on where they could find the answer, and provide the answer, which would be probably the same as the professor. That allows the professor to do something else, but it's the professor who has the idea to innovate with artificial intelligence and use it. And that's what we want to train individuals to do at all of our schools. Be smart decision makers and realize how they can use this to their advantage to essentially make the world better, to make their business run better, and to make their life run better. It's the one good thing about this shock that we've had is that every business has to go back and think about, you can say you're returning, but you're never going to return to what you were. Even if you wanted to, that would never happen. It's about how you can be smarter to return to your business and make it work under the constraints that we are operating with. And you saw this after the Arab oil embargo. You saw this after the financial crisis. Given time, smart people learn how to use technology to make things better. Now, you would like to return where we're not all wearing masks, but that'll eventually happen too, because somebody will figure out some way to do that. It just takes time. And artificial intelligence can cut that time to a very short time period. Look, we've only been dealing with this for less than 100 days.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I will add is probably, as many of our colleagues wish, it's much easier to find robots who can be good deans than to find robots who can be good professors. But in all seriousness, I totally agree with John. I think artificial intelligence and more specifically machine learning can be a tool to enrich the educational experience, but they will never really replace or duplicate or imitate the role of a faculty member. But there's a lot that we can learn from that discipline to make sure that our content is better and delivered in a better way.
Great, thank you. Anybody else want to take that question about robots?
Donna?
I'll comment on a way that we've been using artificial intelligence and technology to support student development. So we've been using it to help them with difficult conversations. So, having a student practice difficult conversations using artificial intelligence is something that's been really helping them get used to delivering some of this difficult news. We've also used it for networking. Again, for students that are not as comfortable, giving them a chance, in a room to interact with different personas has really helped them. So, I think there's lots of creative ways to use artificial intelligence that is really going to benefit the education process.
Thank you. Dean Whiteman.
Likewise, we are experimenting with artificial intelligence in advising systems, very kind of structured question and answer situations. And is this going to change things in the future? My thinking is that the kind of thing that happens in the classroom, in the active learning environment, is just about as unstructured as you can make it. And so I'm not worried about AI putting me out of a job anytime soon either, because dealing with ambiguity in addition to uncertainty is what we do in the classroom, and AI systems aren't there yet, I don't think.
Right. Okay, thank you. We are almost out of time, but I've got two quick questions I would like to ask. One of them has to do something with data science, business analytics. We see that some College of Businesses around the world, they require their students to be data citizens or business analytics certification, etc. And I would like to ask, for your college's concern, do you think that this is something, being a business analytics skills or data science skills, is something essential for all majors across the board in College of Businesses? Anybody, please.
I'll jump in. I do think it is. I think it's an essential skill. And I think all students need to know how to do data analytics and then tell a story using that and take the information and know how to craft a story. So I don't think it's going away. I think it's an essential skill.
I totally agree. And sure, you know, Cihan, that the MOOC College of Business, every single student, regardless of their major, have to be certified as citizen data scientists. Means they have that mindset of fact-based decision making. They understand how to convert the data to insights, and they master some tools to do it.
Thank you. Dean Kraft or Whiteman? Yeah.
Yeah, similarly here, data science is basically infused throughout the curriculum. The analytics master's program that we have is one of the most popular programs and has its demand for it has skyrocketed just in the last few months. So it's permeating everything that we do.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, I think on the analytics thing, as Chuck said, it works better at the master's level. I mean, you give these people skill sets, but they need the functional areas that they're going to be using it in, and that's where the masters work. Although we do have a master's in data sciences, which is more for the people that are computer scientists and engineers that are going to pick up some business skills. But that's what's going to, everybody's going to have to be involved with long term, is having that skill set to understand analytics. And it's probably going to be a core value, just like anything else that we do in the business school, and actually maybe more important than some of the specific majors.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much. My last question to you, and the timing is just 1 hour, quickly. As you all know, of course, COVID-19 has changed everything in the businesses. You know, we talked about business colleges, how you switch to remote instruction, but you know, when you go to a restaurant now, they are using paper menu, which is thrown up after one use. There's a in between seats, there's stuff. And when you go to hotels, for example, I know from my experience, the hotel rooms are cleaned even more deeply, and they announce this to their guests who are going to go stay in the hotels, or some hotels rest their rooms at least for 24 hours, etc. So there is a lot of changes in the businesses. Retail, the same thing, right? You see these now, people are counting how many people are going to Home Depot or Walmart or etc. What changes do you believe we are going to see in business education besides this remote instruction, when there is a need that we cannot be together face to face? But do you foresee anything that you are going to see in your curriculum or offerings, maybe course offerings that you never offered before, as a result of what we are experiencing right now? Anybody again, please.
Well, I mean, I'll give you one example. So, you know, you used to give people problems to work on, and they were all problems that people had worked on forever. Now, of course, you have these problems because of the virus. So think about this one. You know, I for a long time had this airline project that I've done. Well, the big question is not the airline project, but how are airlines going to exist in this world where you're in this basic cylinder moving people, and how can they figure out how to do that? Now they will, but that's an interesting problem. It presents a lot of it. And the same thing with the meatpacking business. You have a lot more interesting problems because you're dealing not only with the production problem and the supply chain, but you're dealing with this external factor. And we haven't had an external factor that we've dealt with like this in a long time, going all the way back to maybe the Arab oil embargo. So I think it gives us a chance for our students to work on some really creative solutions, and gives a lot of students the chance, how do you solve these business puzzles now with this external factor? And it's not just this pandemic, it's maybe facing this for the future, where there may be other ones like this. And how do you return to what could be considered normal? What has to be done?
Thank you.
I will just add, Cihan, a few points here, because if you look at COVID-19 pandemic, what it is really at the baseline, it is a disruption. I think colleges of business usually should spend more time educating students on how to deal with disruptions and crises like COVID-19. And not only that, but if you look at, for example, for Florida, today is the hurricane season. So we have this COVID-19 we're dealing with. You overlay another possible disruption from hurricane, is another the uprising and the looting that is going on. I think we have not, we means business education in general, we have not done a good job so far, in my view, educating and training our students on how to deal and how to operate in the new norm after a major disruption or during major disruptions like this.
Great, thank you. Yes, Steve Rapaccioli.
I also think we're all re-looking at the way we spend our time. And I do think that the travel schedules will likely change. People are realizing that some of that travel that they did might not have been as essential as they thought. So I think just reevaluation of what needs to be done in person versus what can be done virtually is something that is going to have a lasting impact on the higher education industry and other industries.
Great, thank you.
That's a great point, Donna. I had a meeting with my board, a board meeting in April that was entirely virtual. And I was worried that they weren't going to like it. And the feedback I got after the meeting was, we want to do this more often.
I had the same feedback that it was the best meeting. And I think because people were, I mean, we used the breakout rooms and they went into small groups and then they came out. But I agree. And I think people I feel like people are more present now because they don't have that stress of, and I don't know if you all would have been available in a week's notice at another time. So, yeah.
Right. Another thing is, I think it's going to accelerate the demise of the expectation that we make 20-year-olds walk places to sit in rooms and listen to us. They don't want to do that. They want to interact with us. And so what we do in class, I think, particularly now, we're reevaluating, what is happening in the classroom, and are we going to be willing to be in close proximity with a lot of other people in a confined space for 75 minutes? It better be valuable when we're there. And the one last point I'll make is, I think this whole thing is going to make us rethink what diversification means. So, kind of the old thinking about diversifying lines of operation for a company, for example. Well, I have one board member who works for the Virgin Empire. And just about everything they do was adversely impacted by this. And so, thinking about how you hedge against risks like this one, I think will occupy more of our time going forward.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I would like to close our panel with one last question, 1 minute. Imagine that I give you a magic wand and you can do anything, but only one thing with that magic wand. Besides increasing the enrollment tenfold and reducing faculty salaries tenfold, and they will not complain, what would you like to do? Let's say that you can do anything that you want. What would that one thing be as the deans of premier business colleges in the United States? Anybody? I know this was not a question but if you could do anything, Dean Kraft, this is your last.
Assuming you're saying something that's legal, right? Well, I mean, I think if you could do anything, it would be nice to have a glimpse of what if you're imagining new technologies, what they would be. I remember in 1986, I went to a seminar at Apple Computer, and there was a couple of us business deans there, and they were talking about being on a screen and communicating with other people, and they were talking about voice communication and all kinds of things that seemed interesting. And they said it would take 20 years. Well, it all took like less than 5 or 6. And so the real question is you never know what the unknown is. Think of it this way. Nobody heard of Zoom really in the collective before March 6th. Then everybody knows about Zoom. And then about the Microsoft products and all kinds of products. So if you could figure out the technology and knew what it was, that would be what you'd want to know, because that's when you can capitalize to make things better. And a good example is the one that we always grapple with. The question early on was integrity and security on exams. Well, there is something out there. We just haven't figured out what it is. ProctorU, HonorLock, they're good attempts at it, but there's got to be something better out there that somebody has thought of, or something that we haven't been able to use, but we could use. That's what I would like to have, to know what the technologies are that are over the horizon. Not something now, but what's over the horizon that could be dreamed of.
Thank you. Thank you. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, Cihan, I will surprise you, because I think if I have that magic wand, my wish will have nothing to do with business education, is to really live in a world where people respect each other regardless of their skin colors and their ethnic backgrounds and where they come from and how they pray. I think if we live in that world where love, hate, and we all respect each other, I think we will do much better jobs as educate what we do, and we will focus more.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want to build on what both said, and for me, it's about access to really transformational education, because I think that if everyone had access to transformational education, and maybe it's through technology, might be a lever, then we would achieve the society that you were just talking about. So for me, it's about, access to this really special type of transformational education for everyone.
Thank you. Dean Whiteman.
Yeah, I'd like to build on what Moaz said, and I'll take my cue from Miss Congeniality. World peace.
Exactly. You're right. Absolutely. I agree with all of you. Thank you so much. Again, I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate. By the way, I don't know if you've been looking at the comments, but people are pouring their wonderful greetings and thanks to all of you for enlightening them and for this wonderful, fruitful conversation that I personally learned a lot from what you had to say. Thank you again, and I wish you good luck in your prospective roles and wonderful, fine universities to make the world a better place. I appreciate it. Thanks to all of us who listened to us. I apologize for some of the questions that we couldn't take because of the time, but hopefully we'll repeat that in the future at some point of time with some other topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Cihan.
Thank
Great
you.
job.
Thank you.
Bye. Dana. Good to see you guys. Bye-bye.